I will now turn to the distinguished senator from Michigan, who I think knows and cares more about the auto industry than pretty much anybody around here.
Well,
Senator
thank
Stabenow.
you so much, Mr. Chairman, and Senator Graham, who I know cares passionately about manufacturing. We share that in common. And I could talk all day. I won't. I know I don't have all day to talk about this. But let me first start by saying that no one is forcing Americans to buy electric vehicles, but I have one. Nobody forced me to get it. My price didn't go up with the tax credits. Unfortunately, the latest round of tax credits is so complicated and limiting that it's certainly not helping as much as it could help. But I will say the biggest issue is charging stations, and I'm about to test that again. I mentioned to the chairman, I haven't driven my car from here to Michigan in about a year, and I'm going to test it again to see how many more charging stations we have to be able to get me back to Michigan in a couple of days. I do want to emphasize, though, and I've said this before, you know, in 1917, when Congress began heavily subsidizing oil production because of fines down in Texas, we didn't have gas stations on every corner either. And in fact, at the same time, Henry Ford and Thomas Edison were working to develop a battery-operated car, but they had no subsidies. So Congress picked a winner, and they won for over 100 years, and now we're trying to expand this out. And I would say also, Senator Graham, I agree with you. We have a lot of issues. And I guess what I would say is I think we know more of what the answers are. We just need to do it. And then we need to find out where we need to know more about this. But chargers, we know we need more charging stations. Electric grid capacity, absolutely. Both of those things are beginning to happen. We're investing in that through the bipartisan infrastructure bill, more usable consumer credit, more American access to rare earth materials. We actually have new mining capacity, lithium capacity being developed in Nevada, which is very exciting because we're way behind. I would also say that our companies are looking at using different kinds of technology that don't take all those rare earth materials. Also recycling, which is becoming a job creator in Michigan for materials. So there's a lot of things. There have more battery production, which we know that we need in the United States. And of course, we need to change the Highway Trust Fund, absolutely. But I support American innovation. I will tell you in Michigan right now, we have a stretch of road being built that actually has the charging technology in the road, Mr. Chairman, so that when you drive, you will automatically have your car charged. So I support American innovation. Are we there? No, but we are certainly getting there. And I would also say this, our biggest competitor, there's no question about it, is China. But right now, our companies are competing against a country. That's what's happening. There is not a level playing field. Specifically, China is coming for us. They want to corner the EV market, and their government has heavily subsidized this effort. And they've also been willing to steal our patents, I should tell you, coming from Michigan. So what do we do? I mean, I believe, have the smartest, most talented auto workers and automakers in the world. We need to do our part to help them create a level playing field. And that's why I'm so glad that we are doing this hearing, because we're talking about more than 10 million good-paying jobs right now. So, Mr. Jenkins, in your testimony, you mentioned the most important thing Congress can do now for the EV sector is to provide policy certainty and continuity. Could you talk a little bit more about that? I know that our private sector, our automakers say, just give me certainty about what's going on.
Thank you, Senator. By that I mean that the tax credits that were implemented in the IRA have just been finalized in terms of their guidance, and many of the programs authorized and funded by the infrastructure law are authorized to spend down through 2026. So these programs are just getting underway, and industry needs to know that they can count on a stable policy environment to make the hundreds of billions of dollars of investments that they've announced across the United States, and to do that with confidence, to drive innovation and to expand our supply chains. And so I think the most important thing that can be done now is to provide that confidence for the industry with bipartisan support for the maintenance of existing policies. Also note that on the consumer side, consumers are just getting familiar with how these tax credits work. January this year, we started to offer at point of sale rebates. That's a new thing for people. So there's a lot for people to get familiar with. We just set the stage. Let's let our American companies and innovators play on that stage and do what they do best.
Great, thank you. And Mr. Swetcher, would you just briefly comment on the same issue?
Sure, Senator. Obviously, policy certainty is absolutely essential. I mean, you talked about not just the certainty as it relates to potential tax incentives, but in a competitive environment, we need to look beyond just 5 or 10 years. We need to ensure that policies are in place to ensure that the U.S. is competitive, not just tomorrow, but well beyond that. So that certainty is important. And Senator, as you know, oftentimes, the general public forgets about the long lead times in automobile manufacturing and production. Right. The decisions made today in calendar year 24, model year 25, are effectively locked. Manufacturers are already looking out to model years 28. So policies that change today have a material impact, but they don't fully get realized for years to come. So that's why that policy certainty is so important. We need to ensure incentives are here to build resilient supply chains, to support consumers, as well as to attract the investment and the jobs that we're witnessing.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks very much, Chairman Stabenow.